The Quartet Mansion deception exposed. How Martin's scheme unravels in Port Charles. As the tension escalates in General Hospital's most dramatic Quartermain storyline in recent years, one crucial moment threatens to topple an elaborate conspiracy. The discovery of Monica's authentic will set off a chain reaction that will change everything for Drew, Ronnie, Martin, and Tracy. This pivotal episode marks the beginning of the end for a carefully orchestrated fraud that nearly succeeded in stripping the Quartermains of their most prized possession. The scheme comes together, Drew's bold move. The autumn chill settles over Port Charles, but inside the Quartermain mansion, tension reaches a boiling point. Drew Kane, known for his ruthless ambition and his complicated history with the Quartermains, has been quietly orchestrating his takeover of the family's iconic mansion. His connection with Ronnie barred Monica's estranged sister, who appeared in Port Charles following Monica's death, provided the perfect opening. The two outsiders, both feeling disconnected from the traditional Quartermain family structure, found common ground. On this pivotal day, Drew arrives at the mansion with confidence and swagger. He had been promised that Ronnie would sign over the property to him, securing his largest prize in his ongoing war with the Quartermain family. The transaction seemed inevitable. Papers were prepared. The deal was effectively done. Drew moved through the mansion with the swagger of a victor, preparing to claim his trophy. All that remained was Ronnie's signature on the contract. "This is happening today," Drew remarks to Ronnie as he enters, his tone brooking no negotiation. "You agreed to this. We're finalizing the sale." Ronnie shifts uncomfortably, her guilt increasingly visible on her face. She knows what she's about to do, and the weight of it presses down on her like a physical force. Over the past weeks, she's wrestled with the ethical implications of her involvement in this arrangement, pressured as she was by Martin Gray to comply. The pressure behind the deception. Martin's revenge. What Ronnie struggles with and what few know is that this entire scheme wasn't her idea. Martin Gray, a man with a deep vendetta against Tracy Quartermain, orchestrated everything from the shadows. Martin had stumbled upon something crucial weeks earlier while exploring the Quartermain mansion. A letter from Ronnie to Monica, which had never been sent. This letter revealed the existence of Monica's long-lost sister, information that had been hidden from the family for years. But Martin's involvement went far deeper than exploitation. His motivation was rooted in revenge. Tracy had previously had him arrested, and he was determined to make her pay. If he could position Monica's unknown sister as the mansion's rightful heir instead of Tracy, and then facilitate the transfer of the property to Drew, he would achieve multiple objectives: humiliating Tracy, destabilizing the Quartermains, and strengthening his own legal standing through potential future dealings. Martin didn't simply suggest this plan to Ronnie, he coerced her. At a tea party that Brooke Lynn organized to welcome Ronnie into the family, Martin strategically drugged Ronnie's tea, rendering her mentally vulnerable and suggestible. This unscrupulous action was the linchpin that allowed him to manipulate her into forging Monica's will. "You understand what you need to do," Martin would have told her during one of their private conversations. "Monica intended for you to have this, but we need to ensure the right people control it." The falsified will was masterfully created. It appeared to leave the Quartermain mansion to Ronnie, Monica's biological sister. But in reality, Monica had left only a locket to Ronnie. The majority of her estate, including the mansion, had been designated for Tracy, specifically noted as the cherished sister of my heart. The confession extracted under pressure. As Drew prepared to finalize the sale, the situation had become increasingly uncomfortable for Ronnie. The Quartermain family members Michael, Carly, and even Joe had expressed their concerns about her decision to sell the mansion to Drew, a man known for his hostility toward the family. Michael, in particular, had confronted Ronnie, pleading with her to reconsider. "Ronnie, please," Michael had begged. "There has to be another explanation. Tell us what's really going on." Ronnie had nearly broken down during these confrontations, on the verge of revealing the entire truth about Martin's involvement and the forged will. The guilt gnawed at her, and she recognized that she had become complicit in a massive fraud. She was trapped between her fear of Martin and her growing conscience about what she was doing to the Quartermain family. But the moment of reckoning was about to arrive not through Ronnie's voluntary confession, but through an unexpected discovery. Tracy's eureka moment, the real will found. While Drew was completing the transaction with Ronnie, Tracy Quartermain experienced a moment that would change everything. She had retreated to Lulu's home, seeking solace from the heartbreak of watching her family's most precious legacy slip away to someone she despised. While sorting through boxes of family memories and photographs, searching for any artifact that might reconnect her to her beloved family history, Tracy's hand landed on a folder she hadn't seen before. The folder's label made her heart stop. The last will and testament of Monica Quartermain. This wasn't any ordinary will. This was Monica's original, authentic testament, the one that reflected her true wishes and feelings toward her family members. Tracy's hands trembled as she opened it, the paper slightly yellowed with age, written in Monica's own handwriting before it could be altered by anyone with malicious intent. The contents told the story that Tracy had suspected all along. Monica's real will left the mansion to the cherished sister of my heart, a phrase that could only refer to Tracy, the sister-in-law who had been through decades of trials and triumphs alongside Monica. The mansion's ownership had never been intended for Ronnie. Tracy's face flushed with vindication and fury. She had been betrayed. Her family's home was never actually destined to go to Drew through Ronnie's sale. This entire transaction was built on a fraudulent document. The confrontation, Tracy arrives with authorities. Time became of the essence. Tracy didn't waste a single moment once she understood what had transpired. She immediately contacted law enforcement, providing them with evidence of the will fraud. Detective work was swift. The handwriting on the forged will contradicted Monica's authentic document, and Martin's involvement became apparent through banking records and communications. Tracy, accompanied by Port Charles police officers, rushed to the Quartermain mansion. The timing couldn't have been more dramatic. As Drew was about to finalize the contract with Ronnie's signature, the front door burst open. "Stop," Tracy commanded, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade. "That sale is not happening. That will is forged." The police officers stepped forward, their presence immediate and undeniable. Tracy held up the authentic will, her eyes blazing with righteous indignation. "Officers, this woman has been defrauded," Tracy declared, pointing to Ronnie. "This property belongs to the Quartermains, and this transaction is based on a forged document." Drew's face shifted from confidence to shock. The reality of what had happened was crashing down on him. His carefully laid plans, his grand scheme to own the Quartermain mansion, were crumbling in real time. "This is a setup," Drew attempted to argue, but his words rang hollow. The police turned their attention to Ronnie. She was the one whose name appeared on the fraudulent will. She was the one facilitating the illegal transfer of property. Ronnie's breaking point, the truth about Martin. Faced with the police, the evidence of fraud, and the reality that she was about to be arrested for her role in this conspiracy, Ronnie finally broke. The guilt that had been building within her since the forgery began had reached its breaking point. "I didn't do this willingly," Ronnie confessed, her voice shaking. "Martin forced me into this. He drugged me. He manipulated me. He told me this was the only way to survive in Port Charles, the only way to belong to this family." Tears streamed down her face as she revealed every detail. How Martin had discovered her letter to Monica, how he had coerced her into participating in the forged will, how he had drugged her to keep her compliant, and how he had pressured her to sell the house to Drew as part of his revenge plot against Tracy. Martin said he needed to get back at Tracy. Ronnie explained to the officers. "He said she had wronged him. He used me. I was just a tool in his game. I never wanted any of this." The revelation sent shockwaves through the mansion. Michael, overhearing the confession, felt a mixture of vindication and sadness. His instincts about Ronnie had been correct. She had been a victim as much as a perpetrator. Carly looked at Tracy with newfound respect for her determination to uncover the truth. The aftermath, consequences, and revelations. With Ronnie's confession and the discovery of the authentic will, the pieces of the puzzle fell into place. Martin Gray's sophisticated plan to torment Tracy and destabilize the Quartermaines had been exposed. The man who had cultivated such an elaborate scheme forging a will, drugging an innocent woman, and orchestrating a fraudulent property transfer now faced serious legal consequences. Drew's opportunity to claim the Quartermaine mansion evaporated instantly. His connection to Martin through the scheme, while not criminal on his part, left him deeply embarrassed and ostracized. The Quartermaine's contempt for him reached new heights, knowing that he had been willing to purchase stolen property. Ronnie's future in Port Charles hung in the balance. While her confession and cooperation with authorities might mitigate her legal exposure, the trust of the Quartermaine family and indeed all of Port Charles had been shattered. Her position in the family, which had always been tenuous, was now untenable. The locket that Monica had genuinely left her became the only tangible connection to a family that would never truly accept her under these circumstances. Most significantly, Tracy Quartermaine found herself vindicated. Her skepticism about the will had been justified. Her determination to protect her family's legacy had paid off. As the rightful owner of the mansion, the cherished sister of my heart, in Monica's authentic will, Tracy could now step into her role as the family matriarch and protector of the Quartermaine name. The mansion that had been at the center of so much drama, deception, and family turmoil would remain in the hands where Monica had always intended it to be, with the sister who had fought through decades of Quartermaine chaos to protect what mattered most. Next, we dive deep into the explosive drama unfolding in Port Charles as Portia Robinson's shocking secret threatens to shatter her world and ripple through her family ties. In a tense encounter at the Metro Court Bar that left jaws on the floor, Portia Robinson poured her heart out to her confidant Ava Jerome, revealing a life-altering revelation. She's expecting a child, but the father's identity remains a painful mystery. Is it her estranged husband, Curtis Ashford, whose marriage to her has crumbled under layers of unspoken resentments, or could it be Isaiah Gannon, the charismatic doctor she's grown dangerously close to amid the hospital's high-stakes environment? This confession, delivered amid clinking glasses and hushed whispers on October 29th's episode, paints Portia as a woman caught in a whirlwind of emotional turmoil, her usually composed demeanor cracking under the weight of uncertainty. Ava, ever the picture of poised shock, immediately signaled for a double round of drinks, quipping that such a bombshell demanded something stronger than mere conversation, a sentiment that echoes the raw intensity of Port Charles' most gripping tales. Portia's vulnerability here adds a new layer to her character, highlighting how personal crises can intersect with professional lives in ways that feel all too real, especially when secrets like this simmer just below the surface of everyday interactions. As Portia unravels her story, she admits to a fleeting but passionate indiscretion with Isaiah, framing it as a desperate escape from a marriage she believed was irreparably broken long before the divorce papers were even considered. Working side by side in the demanding corridors of General Hospital, their connection sparked during late-night shifts and shared moments of exhaustion, evolving into something neither could resist despite the glaring red flags. Portia insists she harbors no regrets, viewing the encounter as a reclaiming of her autonomy in a union strained by Curtis's lingering attachments to his past and her own buried frustrations. Yet, this justification only underscores the precarious tightrope she's walking in the high-pressure world of medicine, where patient lives hang in the balance. Personal entanglements like this could unravel careers built over years of dedication. Imagine the whispers in the break room, the sit-along glances during rounds. Portia's bold choice injects a thrilling undercurrent of forbidden romance into the soap's fabric, reminding viewers how desire often defies logic in the face of looming consequences. Determined to shield this fragile news from immediate chaos, Portia outlines her plan to maintain silence on the pregnancy until a paternity test can provide clarity, ideally post-first trimester when risks are lower and answers more definitive. She's envisioned quiet prenatal visits, perhaps under an alias to evade prying eyes, and has even toyed with the idea of consulting a discreet specialist outside Port Charles to ensure privacy. But fate, as it often does in General Hospital's twisty narratives, has other ideas. The biggest snag? Jordan Ashford, Curtis's perceptive ex-wife and a force of intuition in her own right, has pieced together the puzzle from subtle cues Portia couldn't fully conceal. Jordan, navigating her own resurgence of feelings for Curtis amid their co-parenting duties and shared history. Notice the telltale signs: a pallor during a casual chat, an aversion to coffee that once defined their social circles, and Portia's evasive dodges around family matters, with her background in law enforcement sharpening her instincts. Jordan's suspicion isn't mere guesswork, it's a calculated observation born from years of reading between the lines in Port Charles' tangled web of relationships. Jordan's potential intervention looms like a storm cloud, as Portia fears her ex-sister-in-law might have already bridged the gap by confiding in Curtis, pulling him back into the fray just as he's trying to forge ahead. Curtis, meanwhile, sought solace in a heartfelt conversation with the ever-wise Laura Collins, opening up about the impending divorce and a complication that's forcing him to reassess his path. He confessed the magnetic draw he still feels toward Jordan, those unresolved sparks from their shared past that flickered during unexpected encounters. Yet the prospect of impending fatherhood complicates everything. Curtis vowed he'd go to extraordinary lengths counseling sessions, family retreats, even enlisting mediators to support Portia through a pregnancy, viewing it as a chance for redemption or at least co-parenting harmony. Laura, with her trademark blend of empathy and directness, probed deeper. Does this mean rekindling the flame with Portia, or is it merely obligation speaking? Curtis's hesitation reveals a man torn between loyalty to his vows and the pull of new beginnings, adding psychological depth to his arc as he grapples with what family truly means in a town rife with second chances and betrayals. The confrontation that capped Wednesday's episode electrified the screen, with Curtis storming into Portia's office, his usual calm facade replaced by a storm of determination and hurt. Without preamble, he locked eyes with her and posed the question hanging over Port Charles: "Are you carrying our child?" Portia's face, a mask of feigned surprise, masking deeper dread, set the stage for what promises to be a series of raw exchanges, where accusations fly and truths unearth long-buried grievances. This moment isn't just a plot pivot. It's a catalyst for exploring themes of trust eroded by silence, where Curtis's directness contrasts Portia's secrecy, potentially forging or fracturing their bond irreparably. Fans of the show will recall similar high-stakes reveals in past storylines, like the custody battles or hidden affairs that reshaped alliances. But this one feels uniquely personal, laced with the authenticity of real-life dilemmas amplified by soap opera flair. Beyond the immediate paternity riddle, Portia's deepest apprehension centers on her daughter Trina Robinson, whose world could shatter upon learning of this entanglement. Portia confided in Ava that confirming Isaiah as the father would shatter Trina's sense of stability, evoking images of a young woman already navigating the emotional minefield of her parents' separation. Trina, with her artistic soul and fierce independence forged through trials like the Esm saga and her own romantic upheavals, idolizes the unity her family once projected. Discovering her mother's affair with a family acquaintance, like Isaiah, someone who's been a peripheral figure in hospital gatherings and even casual barbecues, would feel like a profound violation of that trust. Portia envisions Trina's initial shock morphing into waves of confusion and anger, perhaps leading to heated arguments in their cozy apartment or tearful confrontations at the gallery where Trina channels her creativity. To mitigate the fallout, Portia has turned to Ava, whose bond with Trina deepened during supportive moments in past crises, seeking promises of emotional scaffolding late-night talks, perhaps joint therapy sessions, or even Ava mediating family dinners to ease the tension. Ava's assurance that she'd stand by Trina through fire and flood extends a lifeline, portraying her as more than a socialite, but a pillar in Port Charles' supportive network. Trina's perceptiveness adds another layer of impending drama. As an observant artist with a knack for reading subtext in people's expressions, she'll likely connect the dots on the timeline swiftly. Piecing together dates from family events or Portia's subtle absences, Trina might unearth journals or overheard calls that confirm the affair overlapped with the marriage's final throes, sparking uncomfortable interrogations about fidelity and legacy. This could strain their mother-daughter dynamic, pushing Trina toward isolation or leaning harder on friends like Jocelyn for perspective, while forcing Portia to confront how her choices echo the very secrets her own mother once kept. In inventing this trajectory, one can imagine Trina channeling her pain into a powerful art installation symbolizing fractured families, which might even draw community attention and force a public reckoning. Lurking beneath the personal upheaval is a glaring ethical quagmire at General Hospital, where Portia and Isaiah's liaison represents a textbook breach of professional boundaries. As colleagues in a field where objectivity is paramount, their intimacy crosses into territory that could invite scrutiny from the hospital's ethics board, complete with investigations, mandatory disclosures, and potential reprimands. Portia herself labeled it an HR catastrophe, acknowledging the risks of favoritism perceptions during shifts or biased decisions in patient care scenarios involving overlapping expertise. Hospitals like GH enforce strict policies on fraternization to maintain focus and fairness, often requiring recusal from joint cases or even transfers to different departments, measures that could disrupt Portia's role as a respected surgeon and Isaiah's rising status as a specialist. If exposed through gossip or an anonymous tip, the fallout might include sensitivity training, probationary periods, or worse, termination, echoing real-world scandals that have toppled careers in similar institutions. This angle elevates the story, blending workplace thriller elements with domestic soap, as Portia weighs her passion against her professional integrity. Compounding the tension, the episode teased that Portia and Isaiah's flame burns brighter than ever, with him orchestrating a secluded evening at his rustic cabin retreat, complete with candlelit ambience, soft jazz playlists, and a home-cooked meal featuring Portia's favorite seafood dishes. She arrived fashionably late, citing a lingering shift, only for him to draw her into an embrace that reignited their spark, their kiss lingering under the cabin's warm glow as if the pregnancy complication were a distant echo. This ongoing affair, defying the gravity of her situation, suggests Isaiah's unwavering commitment. Perhaps he's already daydreaming of co-parenting scenarios or even proposing a joint future away from Port Charles' judgmental eyes. Yet, it raises stakes for discovery, with risks of colleagues spotting them or Trina stumbling upon clues like a forgotten scarf. Portia's divided heart here, torn between Curtis's familiar pull and Isaiah's fresh allure, fuels speculation on whether she'll choose transparency or let the secrets multiply, setting up a powder keg for future episodes. General Hospital enthusiasts, this arc is a roller coaster of betrayal, hope, and redemption. Who do you predict is the baby's father, Curtis, tying the family tighter, or Isaiah, heralding a bold new chapter? Would Portia have navigated this smoother by confiding in Curtis earlier, avoiding the secrecy spiral? And how might Trina's reaction reshape alliances, perhaps drawing her closer to Ava or sparking unlikely bonds with Isaiah?